Look, I'm gonna need you to grab your popcorn, put your feet up. If you in rush hour, go ahead and let me get you through it because we talking college football, dynasty mode, and how can you build a program without what? Recruiting. What up, family? You already know who it is, and we back to dive into the world of recruiting on College Football 25. But before we get in all that, you already know what I need you to do. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. It's only a thumb movement. I will be giving away the Ultimate Edition of College Football to one of my lucky subscribers July 10th, and it could be you. Now let's get to this info. Now, if you haven't seen the coaching video that I've done, the link for that will be in the description below just to let you know what's really going on, because now we on recruiting, but you need to check out that coaching as well to see what you're going to be responsible for. But first things first, let's talk about the 4 core goals when building a program. The goal was to understand every aspect of recruiting and make it meaningful to do, to give the user an experience that makes them connect with the players that they are recruiting. From this, EA came up with the 4 core goals. Humanize recruits by giving them unique needs and motivations that the players must discover by interacting with the recruit. Differentiate the region of the country by player caliber, quality, so that you can capture the high school talent based on historical real-world data. Represent the different resources available to schools, ensuring the top schools can blanket the country, while smaller schools will need to be more targeted with their approach. Make the transfer portal feel authentic. That means unpredictable. That's how authentic they want it to be. Stage recruiting is a new experience built around 3 distinctive phases: discovery, pitch, and close. Every recruit will be different and will be in different stages of their recruiting process, and that will dictate how you interact with them. Discovery is the initial stage, and you will basically want to uncover as much about the recruit as possible to make sure he is a fit for your system, and if not, move on to the next one. Once a recruit picks his top 5 schools, now comes the pitch. During this phase, you will sell your program to the recruit and what you have to offer. If your school aligns with their motivations, this will increase your chance of success. Then you have the final stage, close. This stage is when you bring the recruit to have an official visit and attempt to leave a long-lasting impression about your program. If the visit goes well, you'll be able to get a verbal commit from that recruit. But the recruit will make their decision on National Signing Day whether or not they stay with you, so nothing's guaranteed. To understand your strengths as a school in your recruiting, you need to understand my school. Every school is graded on 14 different categories, which comprise their My School grade. These grades define who a program is and what their strengths and weaknesses are. No programs are the same, and grades will change over the course of the dynasty based on the school's performance and actions. Here are the 14 graded criteria. Playing time. This represents how long it will take for a player to become a starter at their position. Playing style. Player archetypes are more worried about this because they want to make sure that they're fit for that playing style. Championship contender. How close is the team to winning a championship? This is considered by the team's current ranking and the roster. So if you got a lot of seniors on your team, then clearly you're going to lose that team. So you may not be in the hunt like you think you are. Program tradition. This is basically a view of progress of how successful you are over time. Campus lifestyle. This is a representation of the city and the area surrounding the campus. This grade cannot be changed or impacted. Stadium atmosphere. This is driven by the stadium toughness place and where you place at in that ranking. Pro potential. This is projected to see where players actually go in the draft. So they do have a mock draft at the end for all your seniors, and wherever they are drafted impacts you for pro potential. Brand exposure. This grade determines overall brand recognition, i.e. potential deal opportunities for the players. Academic prestige. This is based off a real-world academic ranking. This grade cannot be changed, so it is what it is depending on the school you pick. Conference prestige represents the overall strength of the conference based on the teams that you have in the conference. Coaches prestige reflects school coaching staff. Head coaches carry the most weight. Coach stability. This measures how long the coaching staff has been in place and how likely are they to stay in place for the next 4 years. Athletic facilities. This grade measures the quality of athletic facilities for the program. Proximity to home. This grade is unique to each recruit and is based on where the school is in relation to where the recruit lives. Every grade is unique. For example, playing time. So the way that they do playing time is the player's overall or projected overall if the recruit is compared to the team's roster to project how many years it would take for that player to be a starter. Actions you take on that recruiting trail will impact the playing time grades of both recruits and players on your current roster. Even if a player is a starter today, signing a player in his position may negatively impact that player's time grade, and because of that, they may enter the transfer portal. So you just can't keep signing 5-star players one after another and think that you're going to be good, because the actual starter may transfer due to the fact that you're signing people that he has to compete with for his job. Championship Contender uses a combination of the top 25 rankings and Bud Elliott's blue chip ratio, and it looks at how many 4 or 5 stars you have on the team. Recruits and transfers will assess their NIL earnings potentials and brand opportunities when considering where to go as well. Some grades update through the season, while others upgrade at the end of the season. It is important to keep tabs on your grades throughout a season and see how you are trending, because a slight change in your grades could make a verbal commit decommit from you and also make people transfer from you. You can see all your grades in the My School screen, which can be accessed through your recruiting hub. If you highlight a grade, it will show you what you can improve on to make that grade better. It will also show players at risk of transferring because that deal breaker attached to that grade. So if it's a deal breaker and you're dropping in that grade, they're going to show you within that menu players that could possibly want to transfer because of this grade dropping. So you got to stay on top of all of that. So now we need to look at recruits and where they come from. Each season, 3,500 recruits are generated across the country. Just like real world, every class is different. Some years you will have a plethora of QB talent, while other years you won't. So certain regions will be more consistent in the caliber and quality of type of recruits that they have also. So that's the thing too. You're just not going to you're not going to get a 5-star from Idaho. Your 5 stars more like it could come from Texas, Florida, Georgia, or California, and those states that push out a lot of great talent. So now let's talk about what recruits care about. There are 14 different motivations a recruit can care about, and all of them map to your My School grades. What drives the recruit will be determined by the star ratings that they have. For example, a 5-star prospect is going to care more about the next level, winning championships, and NIL opportunities more than a 2-star. Every recruit will have 3 motivations that they care about more than anything, and these will be their ideal pitches. During the discovery stage, it is your job to find out the ideal pitch as fast as possible to determine whether or not this recruit aligns with your program. If they do not, you need to go ahead and cut sling low, let them go, and get to the next individual. It is also a chance that if their 3 motivators can be deal breakers, they do not budge on deal breakers. So if you cannot provide it, move to the next recruit. Also, a deal breaker stays with a recruit throughout their whole career. So that means that even if you get them in, if you don't fulfill that obligation and that deal breaker starts to become an issue, they can still transfer from you in the portal. Now let's look at recruiting pipelines. When it comes to state and football, we know that each state is not created equal. I mean, this means like if you got a pipeline to New York, it's not as valuable as having a pipeline to Florida. So now, instead of having a pipeline made by states, it's going to be made by regions within the state. Case in point, let's use Florida as an example. There's 3 different regions in Florida. There's going to be North, Central, and South Florida. There are over 50 pipelines in college football, 25. So different states could have multiple regions that you can recruit from. All right, so let's move on to initial interest in top schools. Recruits will have initial lists of schools that they want to go to, and it's determined solely by that recruit. This is based off your My School grades and the proximity of home from that recruit. Recruits can also play outside of their region if the opportunity is great at that school. Recruits with high academics are more interested in schools like Vanderbilt, Northwestern, and Stanford due to their high academic prestige. So if you don't have that, you necessarily won't get those recruits. Depending on the motivation of the recruit, it is possible for them to be open to hearing from any school or already have a top 8 or top 5 narrowed down. Recruits will have a list And as weeks go along, the list becomes smaller and smaller, so it's your job to stay above the cut line. You will have to recognize when you are wasting your time and put the energy into another prospect as well. Now let's cover those 3 distinctive stages more in depth. The first stage of recruiting is discovery, where it is your job to learn as much as possible about the prospect as quickly as possible. The faster you learn, the quicker you can decide if this prospect is worth your time or not, or is a good fit for your team or not. All the information you find out is also key for you, so you can learn how to pitch to that prospect. If you uncover the information before other schools, it will give you a cutting edge over the other schools and an advantage. So now we need to look at prospect identification. So when discovering prospects, the prospects list will filter to your team needs initially. You can filter prospects by stars and states. You can use an advanced search if you would like and control more of the criteria what you're looking for, like by position, archetype, state, minimum star ratings, height and weight, and stuff like that, just to name a few. When viewing a recruit in the prospect list, you will be able to see their bio information about the recruit as well as other key information. Once you find a recruit you are interested in, you can go ahead and add them to your recruiting board to pursue them. But how will you know what you need without understanding your team needs? When building your recruiting board, it is key to understand your team needs. There will be a spreadsheet that breaks down each position and what you need from that position. Depending on your scheme will determine the needs of your team. So if you run a pro style offense, you will only need 6 wide receivers. But if you run a veer and shoot, you will need 10 wide receivers. Your scheme is tied to your playbook. The only way to change that is by changing your playbook. As you sign players, you need to make sure that you're looking at your team needs, because when you sign someone, the team needs will update on the spreadsheet as well. Recruiting hours. You will have recruiting hours to use each week to engage with recruits. Schools with higher prestige get more hours each week because it's supposed to simulate they have more resources. A 5-star program can get 1,000 hours available to them for off-season recruiting compared to a 1-star program only getting 350 hours. The time of year also impacts the recruiting hours. So if you want to get a low-tier school, good luck trying to recruit. The recruiting board is similar to NCAA 14, as you need to click on recruits to interact with them. At the top, you will see a bar that represents where the recruit is in their current recruiting journey. You can also see other schools that are pursuing that recruit as well to see how you measure up in the overview tab. Scouting is going to be key. Before you waste all your time and resources on a recruit, it is important to scout them out. You can do this in preseason, and this will ensure that you are targeting the right prospects. Before you scout a player, you will see question marks of their attributes and abilities and traits. These question marks are represented with top 10 ratings of their archetype player. Each attribute has 4 states of scouting. Unscouted, which is a default of the recruiting. Partially scouted, meaning you spent a little time but not enough time to really get anything out from the player. Mostly scouted, this will give you much more clear picture of the prospect. And fully scouted, you know exactly what that means. That means you know everything about that prospect to make a sound decision. You will not be able to scout the player's development trait. It is an intangible factor that is difficult to identify, and since it is, you will not unlock that trait until signing day. So basically, it's a guessing game. If you own the mind reader ability as a coach, there is a chance you will learn their development trait when you spend time with them during their official visit. Also realize there is a gym and bust system that you have to be aware of. All 5 stars, will not be great. And some 3 stars could turn out to be better than your 5 stars. Another intangible to worry about. Finding the ideal pitch. This is going to be key. Once you think you have found the prospect you need, now it's time to find out what ideal pitch will work to see if they are a good fit for your team. There are 5 recruiting actions you can do in stage 1. Offer a scholarship. This shows the prospect you are interested in them. Search social media. You can do this to learn about the prospect. Just make sure you don't like a 3-year-old pitcher, which is really a thing that they said. So that clearly is going to be in the game. You can DM the player. You can message them directly to get to learn more about them. You can contact family and friends and see what information they can give you so you can learn more about the recruit. And you can also send the house. which is basically sending every coach, every resource you possibly have to get that recruit's attention. If the recruit has a red X on it, then that means that the recruit doesn't really care about it. But if the recruit has a green check mark, this is one of their motivations that they care about. All this seems like a lot, but they did set it to where once you do it once, you can forget about it unless something happens with the recruit. So it'll automatically keep going. All you need to do basically is periodically check it, and if something happens or you just don't, or you want to use your points to go elsewhere, if that recruit's not responding or you're not making any ground with it, then you can go ahead and pull back. But it'll automatically set itself, and you can go ahead and ride. Once you set it, it'll just go ahead and go. Now all of that was stage 1. Now it's time to go to stage 2, the pitch. The pitch is available once a recruit narrows down their schools to only 5. By this point, you should have a lot of information about the prospect, and this should help you to be more surgical with your pitching for your school. If you don't have any information about the prospect, you could possibly ruin your chances of landing him. When pitching to a prospect, there are 2 different types of pitches. A soft sell awards moderate amount of influence using this pitch, but it has limited downside risk and penalty for pitching the wrong point. You should use this if you have an idea of what the recruit may want, but you're still hesitant about it. A hard sell, though, you will get the most out of this, but you will also take the biggest hit if you're wrong. It is the best one to use if you already have discovered the ideal pitch of that recruit and you're desperate. If a prospect's motivations do not align with your school, you can also use a sway to try to sway the prospect to change their motivations. Swaying a prospect will give you a second idea pitch only available to you. It can also create a third ideal pitch combination as well, but this will only be for you if you can sway that recruit. Now let's talk stage 3, close. This is the final stage of the recruiting process, and this is also where the prospect takes their official visit, where either you're going to leave a long-lasting impression on them or not. You can only schedule visits with a prospect when they are down to their 5 final schools, and you need to also have offered them a scholarship. When scheduling a visit, playing a low-tier opponent will have very little upside to the recruiting visit, so plan meaningfully. You can have a max of 4 prospects visits at once, but understand, this could also hurt or help you depending on what side of the ball they play on and if they're even compatible together. So it doesn't make sense to have a defensive player and an offensive player come. You might want to have 2 offensive players, i.e. a lineman and running back or a quarterback receiver. You want to sort of do it like that because you can get more out of it. Once you set the date for the visit, now you must select out of the 14 activities what they're going to do. You need to look at your My School and pitch to make sure that these activities align with what the recruit wants to do. If everything goes well, you can possibly get a verbal commit from that prospect. But remember, verbal commits are not set in stone. If you start losing or something happens within your program that goes wrong, the recruit can decommit. Now, I know we said a lot about worrying about the recruits and high school recruits, but let's also talk about the players that's on your team that's going to hit you with the, hey, coach, I'm sorry, but I'm going to decide to leave. So when that happens, you need to also deal with the portal just like every other coach. But when a player wants to leave you, you will get a chance to persuade them to stay. It's not guaranteed though, but you still will get a shot at that player before they actually leave. You're also going to have to deal with roster changes. Just like players leaving, you're also going to have to make roster cuts to better your program. The max roster players you can have is 85 on one team. If you are over, you will have to force or encourage players to transfer or find them a new home. Now let's talk about the transfer portal. Once players have decided to stay or leave, all leaving players will be free game during the offseason. Offseason recruiting, it lasts for 4 weeks, and transfer portal prospects will make their decisions at the last week signing day. You will be left with either pursuing high school recruits or going into the portal and grabbing someone who can improve your team immediately. You will recruit them the same way you do high school recruits, just more condensed versions. So now that we got all that recruiting out the way, let's talk the signing day. They have both early and national signing days in college football 25. Early signing days will be right at the start of the bowl season, and national signing day will be at the end of the season. After signing and going through all your recruits and all your additions, You will actually have to look at who's the top class. So within your recruiting hub, you will also be able to look to see where you stack up in the nation as far as recruiting, to see if you're number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 50, however that goes. But you will be able to use that and see that, because again, that is going to be a tool you need going forward and trying to unlock things for your coaches as well. So remember that. When you recruit athletes, of course, they're going to have position changes. So after the signing day, we will have the opportunity to go ahead and change the position of a player going into offseason. Now that we got everybody signed and everybody's on campus, now we need to talk about the trait that was hiding, the development traits. Now we're going to see that in player progression. Players will get better during the season, but the bulk of their progression will happen during the offseason. There are 4 player development traits. You got normal, which is basically common and they grow over their career. You got impact. This player can change a team. They progress a lot faster than normal with higher upside. Then you have star. This is your potential Sunday player. There are very few of these to go around, and they will establish themselves immediately, and they're fast learners. Then you have the ultimate one, the elite, the best of the best. These players will make a statement the moment they get on campus and have the potential to be all-time greats. Now we need to talk skill group. A skill group is a collection of related attributes. For example, the running back could be a power skill group, including trucking, strength, stiff arm, toughness, jumping, and injury. Every skill group has a max level of 10. Every time you upgrade a skill group, it will increase every level by 1. Some players will cap less than 10, so all players are not created equal. So one running back may cap at 8 compared to a elite running back who caps at 10. But depending on your coach archetype, you can actually unlock that to where everybody has unlimited potential. So all this we got to be aware of. Now let's talk impact players. I know, everybody hates abilities and all these stars underneath their feet, but just know, this is just a part of the game. This is what we got to get used to. These players will have stars underneath their feet, and every team will have at least one on each side of the ball. There is no limit. I repeat, there is no limit to the amount of impact players you can have on either side of the ball. So if you're great recruiting and you developed everybody, you can have 11 killers out there, and them boys gonna cook. Now let's talk managing wear and tear. We already know about the wear and tear system, but let's take a little look at recovery. The amount of recovery will go from week to week depending on the damage of the body part. For example, if a running back hurts his ankle and has a severe ankle injury on the right ankle and his left shoulder is just a little tweaked, the next week the left shoulder will be fully recovered, but the ankle will slightly recover, which means he won't move as much. And so as a coach, you would have to monitor that ankle or not play him at all to make sure that he doesn't get injured. To ensure players do not miss big time games, EA set minimums that players will always recover when you advance the week. So you're not going to just have players out the whole time. So they're always going to recover to a certain degree each week. So you don't have to worry about that. So in conclusion, man, what do you think? I think this is a lot. I love it. This puts Dynasty Mode to a whole different tier. They did an amazing job. If everything that they're talking about is in this game and we can, man, listen, I am excited for Dynasty Mode because we haven't had this type of this type of feeling about football in a while. So this is crazy. And if you like the content, man, you know what I'm about to say. Go ahead and subscribe. Come on, man. Kick it with your cookout uncle, man. I'm here and I'm gonna be here. And I need you because there is no me without you. And if no one told you that they love you today, just know that Jesus loves you. Peace and love.